Okay, we're back again to continue the lecture on Chapter 5. We just finished talking about the Battle of Lexington and Concord and the British withdraw back to Boston. They went back to home base, all right? So we're going to start with slide number 31, which is the aftermath of Lexington and Concord, what took place after everything was already over. So with slide 31, there's nothing on here that you need to know for the test. But I think just out of interest and clarification, let's talk about how George Washington got into the process. Uh, Imagine how exciting, how terrifying this must have been for the average citizen. So you can imagine when this happens, people just start sending folks on horseback. Certainly the provincial Congress sends couriers on horseback to notify the rest of the colonies, hey, the government's attacking citizens here in the colony of Massachusetts. And so word gets to Washington via a courier who rides all the way to Mount Vernon to his home and, knocks on his door and says, Colonel Washington, again, he's referred to in his military position he held during the French and Indian War. They say, well, Colonel Washington, here's what happened. This is, Lexington and Concord thing. We need you to bring your, military experience and lead forces against the British. Well, Washington's shocked, and he's like, well, okay, you just go on and keep going up the road telling people I'm gonna see to this. Don't you worry. And he immediately runs to his bedroom and starts packing luggage, including his old Virginia militia colonel uniform. And he heads immediately on a trip to Philadelphia, where the Continental Congress has arranged to gather and meet. This is far beyond the mere consternation over tariffs and taxes and stuff. This is about, civil war breaking out, essentially. So the Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia, and then you have essentially at Boston, all the British troops relocate back into the city, and all these angry citizens show up, and militia and citizens both, and they blockade the city of Boston by land. Now, it sounds like the British are trapped, right? Well, they're landlocked, meaning they can't get out through the normal land venue. But Boston's surrounded by this big harbor, and the British have full control of the harbor. So they're not prevented from coming and going. They just have to get on a ship to leave or bring more troops in. So the Patriots don't have any control of the water. They just have kind of a mob locking up the land. All right. So continuing on, slide 32, once again, there's nothing on here that you need to know for the test, but this sets the stage for what's coming next. In Virginia colony, and in fact all over the colonies, things suddenly just crop up and happen as a result of receiving word of what took place at Lexington and Concord, because colonial citizens are all British citizens all through the colonies, and they're finding out for the first time, wow, the army marched on a civilian city or cities. They fired on regular citizens. What's that all about? And so to them, it was like chaos was ensuing. So at the same time, all these other things are unfolding in Massachusetts. In Virginia colony, the Governor Dunmore, he orders Royal British Marines to also seize Patriot gunpowder stores that were identified in the capital city at Williamsburg. Patriots, in turn, attack and burn down the governor's home in the city. Dunmore, the governor, flees offshore to a British warship that's anchored, and so they chase him out of town. Meanwhile, in Charleston, South Carolina, we have Patriot soldiers or Patriot citizens seizing arms and stores in one of the military government armories that are there. Jump up to New Hampshire and Rhode Island. Both of those colonies get word of what happened, and they send colonial militia from their own ranks to march down to Boston to help the citizens of Massachusetts surround the city of Boston. So now you have militia, which are citizen soldiers that are anointed to be military figures for two colonies, now mobilizing, activating, and they're marching down to Boston to confront the British with their brothers in Massachusetts. Now, Let's go up to even one of the loyalist bastions in the colonies. That's New York. New York is highly loyal by and large. But even in New York City, there's a patriot movement, and they seize an arsenal of government muskets, totaling about 600, and take control of both supplies, government supplies that were there, and seize a number of government buildings in the city. So the Patriots are uprising there. And then in Baltimore, Maryland, let's move over there for a moment. Patriots are in fact seizing in Baltimore, Maryland, about 1,500 weapons that are stored in government storage in that city. So immediately there's a rush to grab weapons because, you know, the average citizen doesn't have a military musket hanging above their fireplace, right? It's not that it was illegal. It just wasn't practical. It wasn't necessary. So, you know, shopkeepers and bookstore owners and average workers don't have guns hanging over their fireplaces. So they had to quickly acquire weapons. And this is how they do it. They locate the government storage areas and raid those, all right? It makes sense. Now, lastly, Thomas Jefferson was reflecting on everything, and he wrote to a mentor of his, a guy by the name of Dr. William Small. And he wrote about what he heard going on throughout the colonies. And let me quote you here what he said in one of his letters. Such events cut off our last hopes of reconciliation, and a frenzy of revenge seems to have seized all ranks of people. So you can sense that he himself believes things have reached this point of no return, and he believes that this might be the very end of civility between the colonies and the British government. All right, again, there was nothing on those slides you needed to know for the test, but I felt it important to bring that information to you. We'll continue in the next video with slide 33, which talks more about the Second Continental Congress. So let's move on to the next video.